grid tonight. The Cadillac F1 team will become the 11th team to join the Formula One grid in 2026. Is Andretti Global still a part of this project? Denny Hamlin and crew chief Chris Gabehart won't be working together anymore. Was a crew chief change necessary for the number 11 team? Collie Roving Perez back in World Rally Championship full-time next year in 2025. Is he the early title favorite? Hello to all of our viewers watching here in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Kobe Lamont. With me are Joshua Birch from JB Motorsports and Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index. We encourage everyone to comment in the chat, ask questions, and support us through Super Chat. Now here's Josh with our top story this evening.
Thank you, Kobe. Good evening to you. Good evening, Matt. And happy Thanksgiving for tomorrow to everybody over there in the States as well. I know I'm going to be watching on, and with my brother having an American partner as well, we're going to have a Thanksgiving meal. So it's going to be fantastic. And I'm cooking it. Yay. So let's have some good news stories about it all. General Motors and the TWG Group reached an agreement with Formula One to bring the Cadillac brand back to the pinnacle of motorsports in 2026. It'll be called the Cadillac F1 Team, as GM plans to launch a full-blown factory team by building its own F1 car and power units by the end of the decade. The Cadillac F1 Team is set to become the first new team to join the sport since 2016 and the 11th Formula One team, expanding the F1 grid into a 22-car field. In order to prepare for this ambitious adventure to Formula One, Cadillac has set up operations at 4 different facilities in Fishers, Indiana, Charlotte, North Carolina, Warren in Michigan, and Silverstone in England. Now, according to Jenna Fryer from the Associated Press and others, Cadillac will use Ferrari engines in 2026 and 2027 before using their own GM-built engines starting in 2028. The graphic courtesy there of Cadillac. Interestingly enough, one name is missing from the press release, that being Michael Andretti. We already know that he had handed over the day-to-day operations of his Andretti Global organizations to business partner Dan Taurus, who is also the CEO of the TWG Group, which owns Andretti Global. IMSA's Wayne Taylor Racing and NASCAR's Spire Motorsports as well. Now, the only Andretti name mentioned in the press release was Mario Andretti, who will serve as a director on the team's board. However, Michael Andretti included this statement on social media. The Cadillac F1 team is made up of a strong group of people that have worked tirelessly to build an American works team. I'm very proud of the hard work they have put in and congratulate all involved on this momentous next step. I will be cheering for you. Now, based on our understanding of this situation, the group who'll run the Cadillac F1 team is essentially the same group that Michael assembled. So technically, this will be an American-driven Andretti F1 team, but under the Cadillac name. For the longest time, Michael has wanted to bring the Andretti name back to Formula One and has ruffled many feathers to get there, even getting the US Department of Justice to investigate Liberty Media. Now, while the Cadillac F1 team finally got approved, Michael Andretti will be watching from afar without his iconic family name at the forefront. Formula One put this statement out saying that they've announced today that it has reached an agreement in principle with General Motors to support bringing GM/Cadillac as the 11th team to the Formula One grid in 2026. Formula One has maintained a dialogue with General Motors and its partners at TWG Global regarding the viability of an entry following the commercial assessment and decision made by Formula One in January 2024. Over the course of this year, they have achieved operational milestones and made clear their commitment to the brand, the 11th team, GM Cadillac, and that GM will enter as an engine supplier at a later time. Formula One is therefore pleased to move forward with this application process and will provide further updates in due course. Kobe, starting with you on this one, how do you feel about Formula One accepting the Cadillac F1 team's entry for 2026? And does it seem like Michael Andretti standing down did pave the way to make this all possible?
Josh, for the longest time on this show, we've been following this progress and all of the ugly things that have been happening behind the scenes and which have surfaced, to the public. So really, all we had to do to get Cadillac into Formula One was to toss Michael Andretti to the side, and voila, here we go, Cadillac F1 team. I think the general consensus, there's a lot of mixed emotions behind this, and me as an American, I'm very happy to see that we're finally going to have a full-blown American operation here with the Cadillac get into Formula One. I think a lot of American Formula One fans are going to be very excited to follow this team, especially, with the Andretti influence. Real unfortunate for Michael Andretti because we know how hard he's worked to get Andretti Global into Formula One, and he's basically he basically walked so the Cadillac could run with this project, or Michael Andretti has so-called fallen on the sword, to make this happen. And it is an unfortunate situation for him, but at the end of the day, this is still going to be the Andretti Global operation running Formula One. So while it's unfortunate, the team won't be called Andretti Global F1 or anything like that, it's still going to be the Andretti team running Cadillac. So I guess that's something to be happy about because Formula One didn't have to accept this entry, but it seemed like once Michael Andretti stepped aside, that they were more than willing to do something like this. And we already talked about on past shows, Michael Andretti giving his business partner Dan Towers, complete control of his Andretti global teams, and how Michael said in a statement that he just simply wanted to spend more time with his family and all of that. And I do think that is true to a certain degree, but I certainly think there's a lot more to that situation as well. I know we're going to talk a little bit about an NBC exclusive article in just a moment, but I also want to pull a quote from Mario Andretti's interview with Nathan Brown from Indy Star when talking about how is Michael handling this information about Cadillac getting approved while Michael himself, did not. Mario Andretti told Nathan Brown at Indy Star that Michael is totally okay with this, and if that's what had to be done for the sake of getting this thing going, he agreed to do whatever needed to be done. It seems like that was a magic thing at the moment for many reasons. So basically, Mario Andretti is admitting that in order for this project to get approved, all Michael had to do was basically hand over control of his team to Dan Towers, agree not to use the Andretti Global name on this F1 project, and voila, you can run your team without putting the Andretti name on it. Yeah, so that's why there's a lot of mixed emotions behind this story. But all in all, happy to see Cadillac in Formula One. Looking forward to seeing what they do, but really hate it for Michael Andretti and this that he can't have his name on the team. But we saw the back and forth, and it's not surprising that Formula One would have conditions like this because he really upset a lot of people, especially when he took legal action against them.
Yeah, that was big, wasn't it? So as you say, we followed this story pretty much all the way through. When this story came out, was it Saturday? I feel like over the Las Vegas weekend, I saw it and went, "Oh yeah, that's an interesting time to roll this one out." Just when we've got another Grand Prix happening in the States, this won't happen. This is just cannon fodder for the media. Oh, actually, it seems like it's going ahead, which was quite surprising. Always, as we've said, the whole piece of this on multiple occasions, it's great to have a new team coming in, and especially one with such firepower and backing that this, now we should call it the Cadillac F1 team, will have. Going to be interesting to see what they do with their sports car programs if this rolls through, because there's going to be some money going to all different places, but that's another bridge to cross another time. I don't understand what, apart from the legal action that you just mentioned, Kobe, what Liberty and or Formula One have got against Michael Andretti, or he's got against them, or vice versa, because he was the big spoon in the pot here trying to make all of this happen. Now they've baked the pie and his spoon has been taken away. I don't quite understand what or why. It's not like Ron Dennis, former McLaren boss who employed him in the 90s, is now running Formula One and said, "I'm not having you in again." Maybe there's still this F1 IndyCar thing. He's got an IndyCar team. We can't allow him to come into Formula One. Of course, I know that works backwards with McLaren being an IndyCar, but of course they were in F1 first, so there's a bit of a difference there. But maybe there is still that in the background that they don't want to be associated with the IndyCar side of things. Perhaps this will all perhaps come out in the wash eventually. In a couple of years' time, once this team is off the ground, maybe Michael will sit down with somebody and give his full side of the story on this once the team is on the grid and racing. But it looks like finally, to some degree, this whole Andretti Cadillac Formula One saga seems to be reaching a conclusion, which frankly is great for everybody, because as we've talked about many times, we were all a bit bereft of the situation, and now finally it does seem to be coming to some sort of conclusion.
I can just see it now, can't I? The book by Michael Andretti. How They Screwed Me. How I Done It. So it's quite fun, actually. I can't wait to see that. They all come out in books these days as well. Half the people are just waiting for Lewis Hamilton to retire so that he'll write a book and we can all find out about what happened in 2010 when he tweeted the graphic of Jensen Button's telemetry. That wasn't actually telemetry. It was a very bad simulation data telemetry. I want to know everything that happened with Ross Brawn, everything as well, because that 2009 drama, there's just so much that we have to wait for books for. So unfair. Let's get some exclusive interviews now as well, because in an exclusive interview as well with Salio Calpa from NBC News, Mario Andretti went into detail about the next steps for Cadillac F1 team. He essentially confirmed that his role on the team board will be similar to the role that Niki Lauda held with Mercedes. Mario also said that everybody is happy with how this has turned out, including Michael Andretti, which was the most important part in his opinion. Now, towards the end of the interview, Mario confirmed that the team's first driver lineup for 2026 will likely consist of an experienced F1 driver, regardless of nationality, and the other seat will go to an American driver. The link to this interview is in the video description as well. Adam Embridge is here, first of all, saying as well, maybe we can see another American driver back in F1 in 2026. By the way, happy Thanksgiving as well to us three up here, and happy Thanksgiving to you as well, Adam. Hopefully it wasn't too bad where you work as well in the mad rush. Well, if you listened to Danica Patrick on the Sky Sports F1 broadcast this weekend, she'll say that it'll be fantastic for Formula 1 to finally have an American driver on the field, despite the fact that Logan Sargent's been driving for Williams in the first half of this season and of last season as well. Well done, Danica. So, to bring in two people who do know things about Formula 1 and motorsports and actually have brains, do you anticipate that the Andretti still having a bit of influence in the direction of this project, and which drivers would be a good option for Cadillac F1?
Thank you for the kind words on that, Josh, first of all. I didn't hear that because I don't listen to Danica Patrick, but that's funny. I mean, the hot ticket as we stand right now from all the media seems to be the duo of Valtteri Bottas and Colton Herta. Seems to be what everyone seems to be going for. Looks like Bottas is going to be out of a drive for next year. Hot ticket rumours that he's going to be going back to Mercedes in some sort of capacity. Confirmed today that he's going to be doing Race of Champions in Sydney in February, I believe that is, next year. So he will be driving things, but inside a football stadium rather than on a proper racetrack. So that would be an option for them. But we wouldn't have sat here last November and said, oh yeah, in February, Lewis Hamilton's going to announce that he's going to Ferrari. So I don't think we should get too far in front of ourselves with driver market stuff at this portion. On the Andretti side of things, yes, would love to see them obviously still involved in some capacity. Obviously, with the multitude now of races on the American continent, and I include Canada and Mexico in that, we're going to see Michael at the races. We're going to see Mario at the races, and Brazil, of course, as well. We're going to see them pop up in places and at races. And we know Mario likes to come to some of the European races when he gets the opportunity to as well. So they're all still going to be involved. They'll be at the launches. There'll be testing, perhaps. We'll see them pop up there. So we're still going to have some involvement. Of course, Mario being a director of the team is he's on the board there, so that's his involvement straight away. But yeah, I think we are going to still see them involved. But I think on the driver market side of things, let's not run before we can walk here. Lots of moving pieces of the puzzle will change in the driver market in the next 2 years, basically.
Yeah, man, I totally agree with you that that the driver market is going to be really crazy come time 2026, and the drivers we're thinking of now who could be in contention for these two seats at Cadillac F1 might not be the actual two that end up driving this car. But yeah, Mario Andretti's on the board. I still think they're going to have some influence, maybe not, outright influence. If the team was named Andretti Global F1 with Michael Andretti still running the day-to-day operations, then they'd obviously have a significant influence. But I think, obviously Dan Towers, who now owns the show, and then obviously the folks at General Motors, GM, that I think they're going to be the ones, moving forward with all of this. But I still think that they're going to respect the opinion of a motorsport great like Mario Andretti, and I think they're very lucky to have him serving on the team board in regards to drivers. I think that this is a really good approach that they're going to have. One driver who's actually racing in Formula One knows what they're doing, and then a young American driver, whether it's someone from an IndyCar series or maybe someone who's currently on the road to F1, and I guess a bit of the Andretti influence, is still here, because this was Michael Andretti's goal here. He said he wanted to hire an experienced F1 driver, and he also wanted to bring someone up from America to be in his lineup as well. And he also had ambitions to start up Formula 3 and Formula 2 teams as well. I wonder, under the Cadillac F1 team, will Cadillac go down that route and start up F1? We'll start up F2 and F3 teams. I think it would be really cool if they continue that. That would also show influence, the influence that Michael Andretti had over this project as well. I think obviously a veteran like Valtteri Bottas would be good. Like you're saying, Matt, it's rumored that he's probably going to go back to Mercedes as a test and reserve driver, which would be, good for him to do that, still stay involved in Formula One. And if Cadillac wants to have him in 2026, that would obviously be great. And another driver, seems like his F1 career is over now, but he's does extremely well in the American market. Hello, Mr. Daniel Ricciardo. I think he'd probably be better suited, for his F1 career, to be over at this point. But if Cadillac wants an experienced F1 driver, why not try to bring Danny Rick in one last time? I think the American fans would love to have him driving for an American team. It's crazy how popular that guy is here in the United States. And then also Colton Herta. That's all I've seen. Even Mario Andretti himself say, Colton Herta, would probably be one of the top choices for this project. But I believe in order for him to qualify for the F1 Super License, Herta has to have an exceptional season in IndyCar. I believe he has to finish in the top 5 in the point standings again, and then he can get that Super License points, and we'll see how it goes from there. If Colton Herta gets the call to F1, I think that would be really great to see how it would do at the pinnacle of motorsport. But outside of Herta, there's also a lot of other great young American drivers who would be deserving of a chance. And F1, he's an Aston Martin Racing F1 reserve driver right now. Why not take a look at the young American Jack Crawford? Looking at Aston Martin's lineup for 2026, Alonso signed through the new regulations, and Lance Stroll is probably going to have a seat until he decides that he doesn't want to race anymore. So that doesn't leave a place for young Jack Crawford, who's also returning to F2 next season and expected to be one of the championship contenders in 2025. So if Jack Crawford goes out, wins the F2 championship, why not give him a look? I think that would be great to have Jack Crawford driving for the Cadillac F1 team if it comes to that. But yeah, I think Cadillac's going to have a whole bunch of options. A lot of drivers are going to be interested in this project, whether it's someone who's currently on the grid, has that experience in F1, or a young American driver, whether it's Colton Herta from the IndyCar series or Jack Crawford, who's currently on the road to F1 and FIA Formula 2.
Here's another one to throw in for the hat as well. Former Andretti IndyCar driver who, yes, didn't end... Well, it didn't end very nicely, did it? With, in one occasion, Michael going through the paddock saying, where is he? Where is he? I'll get him. What about Romain Grosjean? Experienced Formula One driver, have already driven for an American team, well-liked in America.
Yeah,
no,
just shut down.
I'm going to call that. Sorry, Josh. I'm going to call that off straight away. I can't see.
Rather than Ericsson,
Adam put his hand up for Mick Schumacher.
I'd go with Ericsson over Grosjean.
Yeah, I was thinking Ericsson.
I was thinking the same thing as you, Kobe. Just before you actually said it, was Danny Rick, because he's not attached, is he? He's a free agent. He's still got his Red Bull links, but they could get him in way early in this project and have him as your experienced gun. Someone's also to look out for. And you mentioned if they are going to do their F2, F3, it'll be the Cadillac Academy or whatever, in an Alpine kind of way. We mentioned him on the show last week, young American Macau Grand Prix winner, Ugo Chukwu. If they can get him in the family, then they can bring him through the system, much like you mentioned with Jack Crawford. He knows the paddock, he knows the tracks. Both of those guys could be, on that trajectory as well.
Ugo is in Formula 3 next year as well. He's signed up for these.
And he's in the McLaren Academy, correct?
So easy to, And of course, McLaren has very strong links.
Of course, very good friends with Zach Brown. Something could be done there, perhaps, in the Andretti Walkinshaw Andretti United McLaren sphere.
Do you know, when this got announced, Sky had Zach Brown on the commentary, and we put the fader up. So they were talking to him in the interview. Me and Megan were sat back and having a listen. And I had one earphone off, and Megan was standing next to me. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I screamed at the top of my voice, "Yes, but you work for them!" So it's kind of like, you're on the board. You've got the dollar under you. So it's like, of course, Zach Brown's happy that he's going to be here because he's now effectively getting 2 slices of the pie. So, it's just a bit bizarre, to be honest with you, coming from that. As Adam says, Mick Schumacher, that could be an option. So, I don't know. Mick, I think he's running out of choices because it sounds like he's already been kicked out of Mercedes as their third driver to be replaced by Valtteri Bottas.
Yeah, and I believe it was last week or the week before. Do you see the emotional post he put out on Instagram? I think that was like a telling sign that Mick knows that he's probably never going back to a Formula One race seat because Mick's not really somebody who shows his emotions like that, and for him to put out an emotional post like that, I think that was somewhat telling.
Yeah, he got to drive the Le Mans CLK, didn't he? A couple of weeks ago, I saw a picture of him in that. And he's with Alpine, of course, in the WEC. So looks like he may be going down that route for his future endeavours.
Well, everybody sort of said, it was a surprise that Alpine had Mercedes engines, but we sort of connect the dots because Mick, as a Mercedes driver, was driving for Alpine in the World Endurance Championship. They've already had very strong links there as well with Esteban Ocon driving for them and, of course, managed by Toto Wolff. So it's all sort of been in the works that they've been sort of collaborating for a while now. And let's also add into the fact that Jack Doohan, who is the 2025 driver, only has a contract for 5 races. So it's not out of the realms of possibility that Mick, if Jack Doohan, for whatever reason, I can't think why, doesn't do well in the opening 5 races, Mick could easily just slip back into Alpine as their third driver. Alpine do actually like Mick. Yeah, only 5 races. That's it. So that's why everyone's been looking around thinking, who could go in his spot then if he doesn't have it? There have been numerous conversations about who could step into the Alpine. But yeah, it's only for 5 races. Could be a little thing to keep an eye on. There's so much happening underneath the world of Formula One right now. It's all seemed to be a bit interesting, but we're getting to the tail end of the season. On that one, we'll bring you more news when we have it. So on to our second story of the evening. And after the team didn't meet all of its expectations during the 2024 NASCAR Cup Series season, Gibbs Racing announced key personnel changes for next year. Now, Chris Gabehart, the man on the left, will not serve as Denny Hamlin's crew chief on the number 11 team anymore. JGR has assigned him to a new role as the team's competition director. Now, Gabehart was Hamlin's crew chief for the last 6 years and won in their first race together in the 2019 Daytona 500. Now, the Hamlin-Gabehart pairing won 22 Cup Series races, 2 Daytona 500s, a Southern 500, and made the championship for 3 consecutive seasons. Now, during the early part of the 2024 season, it seemed like it would finally be the year that Hamlin could win his long-awaited first Cup Series championship. After winning 3 times in the first 11 races, many expected the number 11 team to go on a dominant run, but they never went back to victory lane after winning at Dover in late April. Now, Hamlin went through a lot of struggles with disappointing performances, bad luck, and a lack of consistency. Now, the man on the right, Chris Gayle, will move over from Ty Gibbs' number 54 team to be Hamlin's new crew chief for 2025. The photo courtesy there of Joe Gibbs Racing. Matt, despite their success together, was a crew chief change warranted for the number 11 team?
I don't think it was. These two have worked really well together, as you mentioned. You just documented their successes. And he did have a great start to the year this year. It's just slowly kind of faded away pretty much. He was always there or thereabouts, had some bad luck and was caught up in crashes and whatever else towards the middle to end of the season. But I don't think this was quite on the cards. I don't think anyone expected this to happen. There's more to the Denny story, which we'll get to in sort of the second part of this segment. But interesting one. Chris Gayle coming across from Ty Gibbs. I think generally everybody thought that he might get a win this year and hasn't done. So that's another story to see what happens with him getting whoever he gets next as his next crew chief for next season with Gayle moving over. So yeah, interesting times at the 11 camp. They were, to use their own hashtag, all in this year on winning the championship. If you listen to Denny's podcast, he's been banging on about that all season, and it just hasn't happened for him for various reasons, as I've said. So, going to be interesting to see what kind of happens with the 11 team next year, as you're going to tell us next, Josh, because it's all been happening over the last couple of weeks with that team.
It really has, actually. And before the NASCAR Awards banquet last Friday night in Charlotte, Hamlin spoke to the media and said that he was shocked when JGR told him that Gabehart wouldn't be his crew chief as well. He revealed that the team broke the news to him a few days after Phoenix during a team meeting at 6 p.m. Now, while it was certainly a surprise to see Hamlin and Gabehart split up, Hamlin also acknowledged that the team did what they felt was best to improve their entire Cup Series program, including the number 11 team. Now, in a way, the split seems similar to the time when JGR separated another successful duo, Kyle Busch and crew chief Adam Stevens. Now, they were split up after the 2020 season. Busch only lasted at JGR for 2 more seasons after Stevens was moved over to Christopher Bell's number 20 team as well. So Denny Hamlin is now 44 years old. His longtime sponsor FedEx is gone, and he was caught off guard by this major change on his number 11 team. Does it feel like this has his time with Joe Gibbs Racing? Is it limited?
Perhaps. Big sponsor FedEx stepping away at the end of this season. That was announced just before the race started at Phoenix a couple of weeks back. Now he's lost a crew chief. You mentioned that Adam Stevens and Kyle Busch separation after their great run of success they had. It didn't really happen for Kyle afterwards. Now as courses moved teams, and it's not really happened either for him at RCR. This is like, and to use a bit more of a stick and ball sports analogy, this is like a quarterback head coach duo that have gone on. This is what would happen if Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes suddenly got split up at Kansas City, or Brady and Belichick back in the day. If one person goes, it just doesn't feel quite right, falls apart, then the other person leaves. The dynasty is separated, and it kind of feels a little bit that way again here with Denny and with Chris Gabehart. There's a lot of stuff going on in Denny's world off the track, as we've kind of skirted around the edge of on this show for the last couple of months with the whole court case with 2311 and Front Row. He's 44. He's not got many years left in him to try and finally get this championship. And maybe if he ever does get one, he'll do a Nico Rosberg and go, "Thank you, I'm done, I'm off, I'm finished." I don't know. 2311 going to a third car is going to, that's more resources he's going to have to use for his time over there, which we talked about over the last couple of weeks too. So I don't know. I'm not sure who knows how many years Denny's got left on his contract, but this might be his last one. And that'll be, we've seen over the last however many years, haven't we? Gordon, Johnson, Stewart, Harvick, all stepping away. Next on the chopping block, potentially for whatever reason, Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin.
I wish you'd said Dallas in some way other than Dynasty, because then I could have used two-shot JGR as well. So
very good.
Yeah, thank you.
They've had so many changes of quarterback at the Cowboys over the last few years. It's hard to keep track. Matthew Owen says, things that are quite shaky at JGR. Good evening, Matthew. The organisation didn't win post New Hampshire this year. That was Christopher Bell. That was the wet race, of course, where he dominated in the wet and the dry. Didn't get a car in the championship and lost a champion in Martin Truex Jr., of course, with his retirement. Now they've lost an elite level crew chief. And we've talked about crew chiefs a lot on the show over the last couple of weeks with Paul Wolf and everything that's happened there and whatnot. So 18 races without a win for the whole organisation is pretty shocking for Joe Gibbs. And when you look at it like that, perhaps, back to I'm not sure they need to change. Maybe they need to change, because now Hamlin and that 11 crew kind of, since Kyle Busch and the 18 has moved away, the 11 has been the focal point for that team. Of course, Christopher Bell's had a really good couple of years, but the 11 is the marquee car at JGR. And if it's not happening for them, then it's not really happening for any of the other cars below it.
Cars going to look very, very different when it rolls off, of course, at the, what was it? We're at Bowman Gray, aren't we? for the opener. Yeah,
on my
yeah.
birthday,
So that's
definitely February.
it is. Yeah. That's going to look very weird. Are you in the box for that then? Do you know? Or are you taking that off? Thank God for that. I was going to say.
It's stupid o'clock at night. No, thank you.
Just us fools then who have to be in the box.
Yes, well, that race will go on for about 8 or 9 hours for a 50-lap
Oh.
race. There'll be many crashes and many cautions. But more on that next year.
Yeah. Let's all just calculate. We've just come off a 10-week streak where we've been up all hours. So that's great. And I've done recovery in that time. Fully healed, by the way, now. I've yet, though, to eat a burger. So, yeah, come on, somebody. Buy the coffee, buy a burger. So, on to our third story. For the evening as well. Toyota Gazoo Racing have confirmed its 2025 driver lineup for its World Rally Championship team. Now, you're going to have to help me here, Matt, because I want to say it's Elfyn Evans. Yes?
Yep.
Hey, that's one. So Elfyn Evans and Takamo Katsuka as well will return for the full season as the 2024 WRC2 champion. And of course, that's going to be Sami Payari, who gets a promotion up to full-time WRC with Toyota. After scaling back to a part-time program in 2024, two-time WRC champion Kyle Rovanpera will return to the series full-time after winning 4 rallies in 7 starts this year. Rovanpera said he's really excited to drive the full season again, and the time off has given him the motivation to push for another championship. Lastly, Sebastian Ogier will run part-time again in select events for the courtesy there of Toyota Gazoo Racing World Rally Team. I've probably butchered so many of them, but if he wins the championship on 4 starts, that's not a part-time season, is he? That's just he couldn't be bothered to turn for work for 3 events. That's just easy. That's like the old days of Formula 1 when you drop your worst result. That's nothing at all. But does Rovanpera enter the 2025 season as the early championship favourite? And what do you think as well of Payari moving up to the top class as well?
Yeah, I want to start out by congratulating Thierry Neuville for getting that World Rally Championship last weekend at Rally Japan. Quite a dramatic end into the championship. I'm sure that'll be talked a little bit more about in tonight's Hots and Knots segment. What an end into the championship season. But looking at Kyle Rovanpera, despite Thierry Neuville winning the championship this year, I think Rovanpera is easily, hands down, the championship favorite for the 2025 season. You just read his stats, Josh. It's very impressive to win 4 rallies in 7 starts. And if you look at that and you want to try to factor in the whole season, if he continued to win at that rate throughout the entire 24 season, Kyle Rovanpera would have his 3rd World Rally Championship, and I think he's definitely in the driver's seat to get his 3rd in 2025. It's been an interesting year for Rovanpera. I remember when we first talked about this on this show, when he decided, that he was going to scale back, and looking at how young he is right now, we were really surprised that a driver, this young is deciding about, hey, I want to take a break from full-time racing. We know, regardless of what championship you're racing around the world, it's a full-on grind throughout the year, preparing for all of these events, and it can take a lot of wear and tear in your body. And Rovanpera basically, decided to step away because, and try to get a reset and have more fun, find a better balance between, driving some cars for fun. I believe a few weeks ago, read a story about him driving an old F1 car. I think it was like a Red Bull F1 car. You have to correct me. Yeah, I read that correctly then. Yeah, he was having a lot of fun with that. So this year's been a year of fun for Kyle Rovanpera, and Toyota completely supported his decision to step away. And now after stepping away, he's ready to come back, lock in full time again and try to go get another championship and World Rally Championship. And it would not surprise me if he ends up winning the championship next year. And I believe it's one of his most impressive rally wins this year. When Sebastian Ogier was out, Rovanpera, he was supposed to be chilling at home, and then he had to come in, and then guess what he did? He wasn't even expected to race that weekend. He ended up winning the rally, which was super, super impressive by him. So I think Toyota has to be really excited to have him back in the full time next year. And in regards to Sami Payari, really good to see this year's WRC2 champion getting a step up. Always excited to see fresh blood, new faces, and hopefully he'll be someone who'll stick around for a long time.
Yeah, that was Latvia when Rovanpera had to come in at the last minute to replace Ogier after he crashed. He had a road accident, and he came and won the rally and dominated in some fashion, which was great. So he could have had 5 from 7, of course, because he was in the lead in Portugal when he had a momentary lapse of concentration and crashed out there. So it could have been 5 from 7, which would have been a mental stat on its own. I agree. Payari coming in is great. The ladder system working again. It's been a few years since we've had the champion come up and have a full-time proper run. So that's good. He's had a couple of runs in the team this year when they benched Katsuta for a couple of rallies, Chile and the Central European rally from off the top of my head. He got benched, but now he's back. He had the break that he kind of needed. Looks to be refreshed. And of course, it's not long before we get going again with WRC at the end of January in Monte Carlo, which is exciting. So they're going to have 4 full-timers then, or 4 full-time cars with Rovanperä, Evans, Katsuta, and Payari. That's great. And we've got an extra full-time car. Ogier will be dipping in and out. So that's 5 Toyotas for some rallies. So that's really good. Something we haven't really talked about over the last couple of weeks, though, we're getting rid of hybrid in WRC, much like we're doing in British touring cars. Hybrid is on its way out of everything apart from Formula One, who've locked themselves in for an immediately long run of time for no reason, and it will be completely defunct by the end of that regulation spell. But hybrid going from WRC, that hopefully will entice some more manufacturers back in. That will hopefully entice more people up from WRC, the likes of WRC2, the likes of Oliver Solberg, Martin Seks, who had a starring role in the summer, the young Latvians. So it's all positive news for the WRC. And as you mentioned, Kobe, we will get to what happened in Japan in Hots and Knots later on. There is some knots to it too, which again I will get to later on. But on the plus side, and great for Toyota that we've got 4 full-time cars for them going into 2025.
Yeah, and I just, and Josh, before we go to the next segment, wanted to jump into the hybrid discussion. You know, the hybrids, you know, driving costs stuff like that. You know, not just a problem in World Rally Championship. We saw what happened in the FI World Endurance Championship with the LMP1 class. At the end of the day, you know, we saw the Toyota Gazoo race. You know, last one standing, and they basically was just a race between 2 cars, and then the non-hybrid cars, you know, they could not keep up at all with Toyota, and that really which killed the LMP1 class. IMSA, you know, seems to be doing well right now with the hybrids as well as the hypercar class, but that's right now. There's no telling what it's going to look like when time goes along. There's also rumors of other racing series potentially going to a hybrid engine, but based on what we're seeing, that might be something that the series will want to beware. And Roman Grosjean, you know, recently in an interview with Racer.com, I think it's been mentioned he's on this show or the wrap-up show. Grosjean was very transparent, you know, saying that these costs of these hybrids that IndyCar just introduced, you know, just driving the cost way, way up, and that contributed to him losing his seat at Juncos Hollinger Racing. I mean, it hasn't been officially confirmed that he's lost his seat or anything like that, but they really need a lot of funding, and Grosjean, you know, trying to find the bucks to keep his seat there, and it looks like he's not going to return to the number 77 Chevrolet, but for his sake, hopefully they find something, you know, so he can stay in that car, because he did a really good job, all things considered, last season in IndyCar. And it makes me wonder, you know, with all of the costs rising in hybrids, what's the IndyCar hybrid engine going to be like, especially with Grosjean, you know, saying something like this. And we've also heard others in the IndyCar paddock as well, you know, talk about how the new hybrid engine, you know, hasn't really, you know, necessarily been a completely positive thing.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look back through on I think it's Scott Gregory, I want to say, who, if I'm not mistaken, it's Scott Gregory. Excellent. I was just had to double check that, because I spoke to him at Donington Park under the delay day when it opened up, and he was Cosworth. He was the account executive and then customer sales and service executive for 2 years, and Cosworth provide the hybrid engines to the touring cars, and it costs them about $100,000 a year to get all these systems in. It is absolutely shocking, and that's why the touring cars at the moment have been so depleted. We've gone from having 32, 33 cars on the grid down to 20 this year, and it is because the cost is just too high to run these hybrid systems. That's why they've been abolished quite quickly, because it was just no cost revenue. I just have to check on my LinkedIn, because we connected because we were under the red flag for ages. But yeah, Scott and me were talking for hours, and he was saying about how literally there's just no point to them. As soon as Alan Gow wanted to have hybrids in, they were already irrelevant. They have been irrelevant for around about 5-6 years now in the motor car, which is what the touring cars is. It's stock car, it's saloon cars basically, isn't it? So it's just modern and then hatchbacks. So yeah, they were relevant. They should never have been brought into a domestic touring car series. So Cosworth have to supply them all, and he said that each one that they lend out to the team, they lose money. So Cosworth were losing money, the teams are losing money, Toko were losing money. It's a pointless technology. But yeah, I just wanted to get that right. That's why I was looking down, trying to find his name on my LinkedIn chat as well. But yeah, Scott Gregory there, who I talked to back in late April. So moving on to our next segment, and it's Matt White with the latest from the Grid EPI update.
Thank you, Josh. And we will have a look at the scoreboard this week for the Grid Endurance Performance Index, which is unchanged from last week. There it is. Dane Cameron still at the top of it. I got my calendars wrong last week, and I said that this weekend, or last weekend, just gone, was the GT World Challenge European Championship finale in Saudi Arabia. Yes, a European Championship going to Saudi Arabia, whatever next. But that's this weekend. So we've got that to look forward to on Saturday. So we're going to have a race in Saudi, and just across the border we're going to have a Grand Prix in Qatar. More brilliant scheduling from everyone involved there. So no changes to the point standings. That is as it was last week, with Ben Cameron at the top, and as I suggested last week, it looks like he's pretty secure in terms of holding on to that, but we could see a surprise or two between now and the end of the season. There's only 5 more Grid EPI races to count between now and Christmas, and the next one is that Jeddah race coming up next weekend. Here's how the top 50 looks going into that race at Jeddah, with I think it's 11 cars still in play for the championship for the Endurance Cup on Saturday evening. 6-hour race, so double points for them as well, so that's very exciting indeed. We've got one more Super GT race, so Kenta Yamashita and Sho Tsubi there in 9th and 10th position. They will look to secure the championship in Super GT, and of course up the point standings in the Grid EPI there from 9th and 10th. That is in a couple of weeks' time. That's how the Grid EPI looks for week number 35. Week 36 this weekend with the Jeddah GT World Challenge European 6-hour race, bringing the results of that and an updated point score on the show next week in this segment, as always. Now time to hand it to Kobe. It's not as many headlines as there were last week, but there's been plenty of news in the motorsport world.
Thanks, Matt. Time for some more motorsports news from around the world. The FIA World Endurance Championship released the provisional entry list for the 2025 season. We'll see a total of 36 cars running full-time, evenly split with 18 hypercars and 18 in LMGT3. The most notable addition in the hypercar class are the 2 Aston Martin Valkyrie prototypes with Harry Tincknell and Alex Ribeiro has been confirmed as the first 2 Aston Martin Thor team drivers. In LMGT3, Ben Barnicoat will drive the Akotis ASP Team Lexus GT3, adding a WC program to his IMSA GTD Pro duties in the Vassar Sullivan Lexus. Meanwhile, the Iron Danes will switch to Porsche, with Lamborghini exiting the series altogether. Rahel Fry and Michelle Gautin will have a new co-driver in Celia Martin to replace Sarah Bovey, who's had her driver rating increased. Entry list courtesy of the WEC. Jeremy Bullins will reunite with Brad Keselowski in 2025 and become the new crew chief for the number 16 at RFK Racing. Bullins has won a total of 31 NASCAR races in the top 3 series and comes to RFK after spending over a decade with Team Penske and Wood Brothers. Besides Keselowski, Bullins has worked with Ryan Blaney, Austin Cindric, and Harrison Burton. When Bullins and Keselowski previously worked together in the Cup Series at Team Penske, they won 5 Cup races and finished second in the points in 2020. Bullins said he's excited to work with Keselowski again and feels like they have some unfinished goals, like winning the Daytona 500 and taking home a Cup Series championship. Photo courtesy of RFK. JTG Daugherty Racing will undergo a name change, rebranding, and bring in a new ownership group as the team begins the Hayek Motorsports era. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. will stay with the number 47 team as Gordon Smith takes over as the primary owner from Tad and Jody Guschechter. Joining Smith in the ownership group is the returning Brad Daugherty plus Mark Hughes and Ernie Cope. You might have remember Ernie Cope's name from being a crew chief. Smith said becoming the team owner brings an exciting opportunity, and he looks forward to building on the team's accomplishments and investing in its future. For those wondering what Hayek means, it means fast in Chinook jargon, which is a trade language of the Pacific Northwest. So maybe our own Joe Samniego can tell us a little bit more about Hayek if it's a trade language up there in the Pacific Northwest, where Portland, Oregon, home of Grid Network, is located. Graphic courtesy of Hayek Motorsports. With longtime Performance Racing Network lead anchor Doug Rice retiring, PRN has chosen pit road reporter Brad Gilley as his replacement alongside Mark Garrow. In 2006, Gilley started to broadcast live NASCAR events with PRN and has spent most of his time working on pit road, although he does have experience working in the broadcast booth over the years. Rice said Gilley was the obvious choice to replace him because he's been a part of the PRN broadcast team for decades, and he's a familiar voice that fans trust. Gilly called it an honor to move up to the anchor chair and thanked Rice for his friendship and mentorship, graphic courtesy of PRN. And we briefly touched on this story during last Sunday's Grit Live wrap-up show, but Pro Football Hall of Famer, NFL on Fox analyst, and Good Morning America co-host Michael Strahan will drive the pace car for the 109th Indianapolis 500. This was announced during last Sunday's Fox NFL Sunday pregame show, and Strahan will drive the Corvette ZR1 Coupe, which is capable of reaching 233 miles per hour, basically the same speed that the Indy cars can reach in qualifying. As you already know, Fox Sports is the new exclusive broadcasting partner of the NTT IndyCar Series. Strahan driving the pace car for the greatest spectacle in racing is the latest collaboration between Fox and IndyCar ahead of their first season working together. Previously, the announcement of a new street race in Dallas at AT&T Stadium was featured during Fox's NFL Game of the Week, and Heisman Trophy winner Mark Ingram showed up to the big noon Saturday kickoff show in Bloomington, Indiana, inside of an Indy car, graphic courtesy of Penske Entertainment. Spire Motorsports hired 2 key members to join its competition department. Matt McCall will become the team's director of vehicle performance, and Dax Geringer will be their new technical director. McCall comes over to Spire after serving as Brad Keselowski's crew chief at RFK Racing, while Geringer was the lead engineer for the number 4 team at Stewart-Haas Racing. These are the latest moves by a team with hopes of taking a huge step up in performance in 2025. Graphic courtesy of Spire Motorsports. Tyler Ankrum will return to the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series full-time next year with McAnally Hilgeman Racing. He'll be back in the number 18 Chevrolet Silverado with continued sponsorship from Leona. In 2024, he made the Truck Series playoffs for the 3rd time and posted career highs, which included 6 top 5s, 12 top 10s, and improved his average finish from 2023 by nearly 6 positions. Crew chief Mark Hillman will also return in the same role. Ankrum said the 2024 season was probably the best year of his career with the consistency shown, and believes keeping this group together for another year will help him achieve his goals of returning to victory lane and making the championship 4 at Phoenix. Graphic courtesy of McAnally Hilgeman Racing. And after spending the last 3 years competing in the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge, Robert Wickens is stepping up to the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship in 2025. Wickens will drive the number 36 Corvette Z06 GT3R for series newcomer DXDT Racing and GTD for the 5 sprint races at Long Beach, Laguna Seca, Mosport, Road America, and VIR. With his new GTD program, Wickens will debut a new electronic handbrake control system from Bosch. In the past, Wickens has said that he wanted to get back to a top-level racing series following his life-changing crash in the IndyCar at Pocono several years ago. And Wickens, earlier this year, he tested a Formula E car at Portland International Raceway and even teased running the Indianapolis 500 one final time. Wickens said the opportunity to race in IMSA's top championship was something that he'd been seeking for a while, and he's pleased with his limited schedule for next year. Photo courtesy of DXDT Racing. Tony Breidinger will step up to the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series on a full-time basis next year after spending the last several years in the ARCA Menard Series. She'll replace Dean Thompson in the number 5 Toyota Tundra at Tricon Garage with sponsorship from Raising Cane's, Celsius, and Sunoco. In the last 2 years, Breidinger has made 4 starts in the Truck Series with Tricon and scored a best finish of 15 at Kansas in her series debut, and 65 career ARCA starts. In ARCA National, to be more specific, she has 4 top 5s, 27 top 10s, and she finished 4th in the points this year. Breidinger said racing full-time in the Truck Series with this team is a dream, and it's been a 15-year process for her to get to this point in her racing career. Graphic courtesy of Tricon Garage. And now I'm going to throw over to Matt for everyone's favorite game. Pick a winner. Matthew Brewer already has the crown. We're just basically just playing for placing right now in the pick a winner standings.
Yeah, playing for funsies over the next couple of weeks. 3 more pick-a-winner points still up for grabs. 2 of them at Qatar this weekend for Formula 1 because it's the final sprint race of the season on a Saturday evening their time, afternoon for us in the UK, morning if you're in the States. And we're going to pick, trying to pick the winner of that sprint race now. I'm going to go first, and I'm going to go with a man that was very, very good there last year, and McLaren could do with a bit of a pep up. I'm going to go with Oscar Piastri to win the sprint race, just like he did last year at Qatar. Who are you going with, Kobe?
Yeah, McLaren was very impressive last year in Qatar, but I think I'm going to go with the newly crowned 4-time world champion. I think Max Verstappen gets it done. Who you got, Josh?
I'm going for Carlos Sainz. Literally, because every time there's a sprint race, Ferrari have a civil war and Carlos comes out on top. And this is a circuit that should suit Ferrari quite well. So I think Carlos Sainz will get it in the sprint race. And I even think he might get it in the Grand Prix as well.
Adam is going with me, and he's also picking Oscar Piastri to win the sprint race on Saturday. You can get your selections in. Use the hashtag #PickAWinner on social media. Tag us in with the Grid Network TV handle for the sprint race and for the Grand Prix on Sunday. And then we'll do the same thing for the Sunday Grand Prix for Abu Dhabi for the season finale for Formula One next weekend. And the season will be wrapped up, and we'll have a full leaderboard to bring you for Pick a Winner and how it finished for the 2024 season. Time to wrap up the show, but not before we do Hots and Nots, still unbelievably brought to you by insert your company name here. The floor is yours, Josh. What are your Las Vegas Hots, if any?
I actually did enjoy the Grand Prix. I think Vegas gives us a very different race in where it feels more like an oval in terms of how fast it is and how the tires degrade and the weather playing a factor in terms of the conditions of being cold, so temperature more than anything else. And it's all about working in the right windows. So I actually really enjoyed the Grand Prix. I was wearing a tuxedo. I dressed up. I got into the spirit of things. But yeah, I think it was a very hard race to follow. Our timing screens were working, but they had some problem because at half distance, when everyone came into the pit lane, I don't know whether it was because of the conditions and how cold it was that the systems for FON just didn't work, but they were lagging everything by about 20 seconds, and we didn't have any information on tyres. And also, that means... Just hit a thing under the desk. That means that when I was looking for overtakes on the circuit, we were riding on board, say, with Esteban Ocon. I'd look on the driver tracker to see who was alongside, whether it be Tsunoda or Lawson. And it wouldn't load. So me and Megan had to sort of really play wits about us with working out who was where on the circuit and who was going to come out in pit stop terms as well, because that didn't work, where we thought, oh, okay, so Russell's coming in now, but is Hamilton going to get him because Hamilton's just coming out the last corner? Oh, no, there's a 30-second gap. So that was really difficult. So difficult, I got a migraine. I felt myself going dizzy in the commentary box, left it and had a massive migraine the rest of the day. So that was great. That's why I wasn't on the show on Sunday for Max's championship. And I think I must say as well, Max's championship, we all knew he was going to do it, but he's done it in style. And I think it's quite an amazing stat. I think I put this out on socials, Twitter and Blue Sky and all that lot. I think I said, it's amazing that we've had 4 races in Las Vegas and 3 of them have decided a world championship. It's quite fun. That's quite nice. Fifth. Yeah, and all by finishing in 5th place, yeah. And that stat where it was who's now better, Vettel or Verstappen, and it's Verstappen beat the first of 4 championship in like 1,078 days, and Vettel did it in 1,079. It would have been matched if it wasn't for the fact that the race was on a Saturday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I found that quite entertaining as well, actually. But the season just goes on for so long now as well, so it's easier to get to that point, because otherwise, if it was a regular season, or if McLaren hadn't got their act together, the championship would have been decided this weekend in Qatar. But yeah, in terms of that, I think it was quite a good weekend. I quite enjoyed Vegas, despite the fact that it's mucked up my timing so much that this is a not for you. We've come off 10 weeks of doing night races across MotoGP, Formula One, and all that lot. NASCAR as well. And I had my surgery in the middle of that, and I was 6 weeks recovery. So I have felt completely knocked for 6 at the end of all this. Vegas did not help, because usually if it's night here, it's day on the television. But it's night on the television and night outside. It really plays with your brain. Me and Megan completely lost track of what day it was, because we've got to remember, oh, it's Sunday here, but it's Saturday there. So I genuinely was getting ready for bed until Megan told me, and you got quit in half an hour. And I was like, work? So like that Homer Simpson gif. So I jumped out and slung my clothes back on and got down to bed. So it got down to the commentary box. But yeah, that was my knot. And hots. I don't really have any knots. Nothing happened over the weekend for a knot that I can remember.
I have a couple of... I've certainly got one knot, but I'll come to that. I agree. Being on the Saturday, in Vegas confused me because I then went to put it into my spreadsheet with the date of when the Grand Prix was, like I always do after we've had a race, and mark it that I've watched it. And I then 5 minutes went past. And I went, I need to go and move that up. It's not in date order. I put it in the wrong place. It was an okay race. The biggest hot, I think, of the weekend was that we got the weekend without all of the chaos that we had last year, of course, with the delays and the fans being kicked out of the grandstands and the Carlos Sainz manhole issue. We didn't have any of that stuff going on, which if it had happened again in some form over the weekend, that would have been a disaster. Hot George Russell, great drive from pole, tremendous. It just disappeared off, especially in the sort of middle third of that race. Just vanished away at the front of the field. Hot was it Perez, Lawson, and Ocon 3 wide into the end of the back straight, and they all managed to get through without hitting each other, and Perez was involved.
Last time they went 3 wide, they all made up in contact in Qatar. Ocon hit. It was actually the same thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was on Sky Sports F1 last night. I saw it again yesterday. They were showing the replay of last year's race. I was like, that was those guys from last week. There it is. Yeah, cool. Very good stuff that they all managed to get away with that without coming to blows or anyone in the wall or wings flying everywhere or whatever else. Kobe mentioned it. WRC hot. Congratulations to Thierry Neuville. Finally gets his championship. He's been trying so hard for so many years. It was dramatic with Oyt Tanak crashing on the power stage to kind of hand him the championship and take it away from Tanak, and that cost Hyundai the manufacturers championship and gave it to Toyota. So it was a tremendous season finale for WRC. And as I mentioned, we're basically have a sleep and you're back to normal again because Monty isn't too far away with the start of next year. So that's going to be cool, as we talked about. I think I'm out of hots, but I do have nots. Unless you've got more, I'll just roll straight. Actually, I'll tell you what. Well, let's read Adams. Verstappen world champion and Mercedes sweeping the weekend was Adams hot from the weekend, and he says, "What's not with Danica?" And we'll just leave it there.
Yeah.
Any more notes from you or
Danica? Just Danica. I cannot. There's rumours going around that they're getting rid of David Croft and Martin Brundle. Now that is not true. They are not getting rid of Martin Brundle.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, David Croft, on the other hand, I understand might be taking a couple more races off next year as well, and with Harry Benjamin stepping into the forefront more often as well. That's just to balance out the calendar and make sure that everyone on the team is healthy, because 24 races plus 6 sprints is a long time as well. So that's understandable. But they're not getting rid of Martin Brundle. They would be lunacy to get rid of Martin Brundle as well, because Formula 1 on TV will snap him up like that, and that'll be Channel 4, and that's half the viewership moving over to a highlights-only package. So, yeah, no. Sky brought Formula 1 with the basis that Martin came with it. Martin is at the forefront of all of the social stuff and all of the stuff. Martin is Sky. Martin is Formula 1. End of. But yeah, just massive knot is Danica. Get that woman off the screen, because I can't deal with it. It's not her political aspects, which she's mad as a box of cats. It is the fact that she knows absolutely nothing about Formula 1. And it's embarrassing having to watch her when there is so much better representation of women in Formula 1 as well. And also,
and on that Sky team.
Yes, exactly. And I want to say, this is personal now to Sky F1. Whoever's idea it was to use the LGBTQ plus microphones this weekend and have Danica Patrick hold one, I love you. That was genius.
It was funny.
And of course,
I did laugh at that one. I woke up 5 minutes before the race start. And I was like, I'd missed all of the fun and festivities from the pre-race, of which apparently there was many. But
they threw her out of a plane. Yeah.
Well, there you go. Not, and you talk about Sky. This is parochial, but Sky Sports F1 coming to an end in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah,
it's being replaced by Sky Sports Darts. So the arrows at the World Championship at Ali Pali, which is very exciting news. Christmas tradition in the UK. So
yes, I quite like it. I like it because Croft is still commentating on it, so it still keeps the.
He is, yeah. He'll be doing a couple of bits and pieces, which is always fun. It's not really a hot or not. I just thought I'd throw it in there. Knots from Vegas. I've got two. The podium should be on the front straight.
I'm with you.
Inordinately long time to get them in the cars and get them up, and then there was people not being able to hear each other, and it was Terry Crews, wasn't it? Wasn't sure he was on, and Jensen standing there nudging him in the back, going, "Go, ask the question, please. Get on with it." That was all a bit clunky, to use a word. Talking of clunky, was we talked about it last week, the change in race direction.
Oh God!
What Carlos Sainz penalty?
Yeah, can't see nothing at all.
But I mean, to use a Martin Brundle line, it's the slam dunkiest of all slam dunk penalties, isn't it? He crossed the white line at pit entry.
Yeah,
and they said,
yeah.
I listened to the race podcast, the race review, and they said because he was told that they weren't ready, that's why race direction had given them a bit more leeway, because the team had said stay out. And
yeah, okay.
Ocon came in the pits and missed his pit boom. So does everybody have to stop while he then re-gets his position and go again? I just don't understand why that wasn't a penalty.
There's a very famous instance of this, and allow me. In, stay out.
Lewis at Hockenheim
got a penalty for it. Should have got a penalty.
He went past the wrong side of the cone.
Yeah. Now, I spoke to Dad about this, Ian Birch, who he hasn't been on the commentary that much, but very experienced in Formula One world. He's been doing things for years and has known drivers and riders and so on. He said what he thought of it when he eventually watched it was a bit like Charlie. So he felt that the race was being directed like Charlie Whiting would direct it. Like there's a bit more leeway, with a bit like there's a more bit of sense to the rule. Like, with Charlie, it'd be like, all right, no one got hurt in this. You lost time. That's fine. Whereas with Michael Masi and all the others, it was very much like letter of the law. I think that's what Rui's coming into being, like saying, okay, look, we're going to have a little bit of leeway here. There's a little bit of give and take. But at what point does that become race director not have his own input on the race, and the stewards as well? It was Liuzzi who was steward this weekend as well. But I don't know. I'm a bit uneasy because I don't know which side of the fence I sit on. I don't know whether I like the going back to Charlie Whiting style of, okay, no one was injured here, nobody was affected, you actually lost time, let's leave it. Or the draconian, this is the law, you must do this, you must do that. Because I don't know which side I sit on. I don't know. Do you want stickler for rules, or do you want jolly old boys racing? I don't know. I don't know.
Rules. I think it should have been a penalty. I've had a hot that I forgot from WRC. Quickly before we wrap up, Toyota making changes in the team management. Jari Matti-Latvala, who has been running it, kind of stepping aside somewhat, and one of my absolute rallying heroes is back in the paddock next year. Juha Kankkunen, former world champion, the man that was asked once at a stage stop control, what about the tyres? And all he said when he was sitting in his Subaru was black round Pirelli. We're going to get some great quotes from Kankkunen next year in the WRC, you can be sure, if that's the standard. Devon, hello to you, says, should F1 introduce a sprint world championship? I mean, you would have to have them at more races in a MotoGP kind of style, wouldn't you? You'd have to have more than 6. Would this be in the kind of IndyCar road courses championship, ovals championship, and then the overall championship like they had a couple of years ago, which seems to have gone away? I think not.
Yeah, I think the sprints are sort of
the F1 Sprint Cup.
Yeah, that could work. But I think everyone's realised in MotoGP that the sprints work, but they still need to be tweaked a little bit. And I think in Formula One, they haven't yet refined the idea.
Talking of sprints and MotoGP, and I don't think we mentioned this on the show last week.
No, we didn't.
That next year in the UK, if you're a MotoGP fan and you do not have Discovery Plus TNT Sports, you're going to be able to watch all of the sprint races for free next year on Quest, which is a free-to-air channel, much like we're talking about the CW getting the Xfinity Championship in the US. You're going to at least get to watch all of the sprint races next year for absolutely no pounds and pence, which is a brilliant move, which is going to come into next year.
And I understand that the MotoGP highlights are also going to move to Quest as a now TNT production, which I do understand. Yeah, away from ITV, which means that Quest are now going to air on Sunday nights, not Monday nights. And they're not
Okay.
going to. Yeah, and they're not going to do that stupid thing that ITV and the World Feed have been doing where they post on social media or at the start of the show, hello, welcome to Qatar. And David Alonso won in Moto 3, Sam Lowe's won Moto
Right.
2, and then Fabio Quartararo won Moto GP. Here's the races, enjoy. It's like, hello, it's a highlight program. You're not supposed to tell us what happened before. It's like, it's the most stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. What kind of presenting was that? Here's what happened. Now watch it. It's like, no, because you're going to find out the results and just turn off. It's
Welcome
all.
to the Indianapolis 500 on Fox for the first time in however, and Joseph Newgarden has won the race.
Yeah, goodbye. Don't need to turn in.
Yeah,
Don't need to see what happened. So I think that I'm very much looking forward to the fact that that's going to be now a TNT production because they do brilliant highlights. They're fantastic. And I believe that's now going to move up to an hour on Quest, not just the half an hour that we've had. So we'll have Moto 3, Moto 2, and Moto GP as the highlight package involved. And we'll also have 2 live Grand Prix, or 3. I don't know if it's 2 or 3. I know the season finale is live and Silverstone's live. There's been rumours about Mugello, but that's up in the air because Mugello's like the popular.
Mugello or Jerez, they're the only ones you can pick from, really. They're the two. If you're going to pick one of the MotoGP weekends to have on, they're the two. Or maybe Assen.
Yeah, Assen's good, yeah.
Yeah, I think we're done. Happy Thanksgiving. We're going to go and get in the warm. And I hope everyone enjoys their long weekend stateside.
I would completely agree with you, Matt, as well. And taking football. Oh, God, yeah. Me and Megan have got the TV booked after the Thanksgiving meal to watch the 2 games back to back. And Megan has already said that she's going to do what we usually do when we have the Super Bowl, which is loads of chips as well, loads of dip, and she's already got my eyes. She's got her eyes on my whiskey, so that's gone. I've got half a nice bit of whiskey left, and she's going to go. So Megan will probably have some form of headache on Friday, so I'm going to enjoy that, shouting in her ear for Formula One Academy. So taking a look at our upcoming schedule as well. Saturday we've got our Grid Live pre-race as well. Sunday Grid Live wrap up. That's at noon Eastern to recap the Qatar Grand Prix. And you can please do continue to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you very much for helping us reach the 1,500 subscribers. Now we are halfway on the road to 2,000 as well. You can hit the bell icon to get notifications when we go on the air. And you can follow all of our social media platforms and visit gridnetworktv.com. You can take 5 minutes to invest in the Grid Network through Patreon. You can join Colin, Mark, Deshelle, Robin, David, and Matthew who invest each month in the Grid Network. And we encourage you to join these fine folks who help us keep us on the air. Once we hit $500 per month, we can start sending our team to the track to cover more races and continue expanding our coverage. The link to all of that is in the video description. And if you want to do a one-time donation, you can click on the Buy Me a Coffee link, get your name on the board, and invest as much as you want. And you can consider buying a specific on-air personality of Copper Coffee, and they will thank you on the air. For Kobe Lambeth and Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index, I'm Joshua Birch from JB Motorsports. Thank you very much for watching. We wish everyone in the United States a very happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy the parade, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.